So certainly D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, it's about the loot. It's about the discovery of the magic items. It's about the experience, leveling up. And I have to say, as a player, fighting monsters, resolving encounters, I love the role-playing stuff, but there is a sense of achievement in victory, in that tabletop or virtual victory. That's why I do believe, while most of my games as a dungeon master focus on role-playing elements, story interaction, player interaction, NPC interaction, I'm not giving away any spoilers, I do focus and say, hey, at least we need one encounter for the evening, something where we're rolling dice and we're in that encounter mode. So tremendous player satisfaction when you complete an encounter. But there's also tremendous satisfaction in getting the loot and leveling up. So that's what we're going to explore in this D&D vlog from the perspective of a DM and how I believe that changes based on the campaign. So for many of us, well, I shouldn't even say for many of us, I tend most of the time just to deal in gold pieces. Because again, I'm focusing on role-playing elements. I don't necessarily want to get caught up in all the bookkeeping and the back and forth. So I tend to play where the characters are going to find treasure in gold pieces, silver and copper. I just assume like they kind of have that pocket money. So when you walk in to the inn and you rent a room for the night and you buy a couple of meals, I'm not going to like add it up and say, well, that's 2 silver, 15 copper and do that bookkeeping. Although some campaigns, you might play that for various reasons. I assume you've got that spending money. You're living day-to-day money. But now if you say, I want to rent a room for a couple of months, or I want to rent that cottage, or rounds are on me, drink tonight, then it might be like 15, 20 gold from that perspective. So there is a role-playing line where we cross that. But I tend to deal in gold. There were times back in the day, AD&D, where we did take it down to gold, copper, silver, electrum, platinum, all that. I think AD&D tended to focus on a more traditional view of the kind of the classic metal systems. This idea that most people are dealing in copper and silver, and gold is pretty rare. So you would beat some monsters where the monster hoard, that hoard, that treasure hoard for the clan would be like 2,000 copper pieces and 380 silver pieces. That represents the wealth. And that is very realistic and very straightforward in the AD&D systems. As we move through 3.0, 3.5, 3.x, 4.0, I've been on record saying I love 4.0 for what it is, what it tried to do, what it aspired to do, and certainly in the current D&D edition, while those coin elements exist, I feel like it's more like a credit system. I feel like it's more mainly focusing on gold because it's easier. But this leads into the question, as a DM, do you utilize copper, silver, and gold to the point of bookkeeping? And I try to, while I tend to focus on gold, I do also try to keep a very holistic understanding of wealth and treasure in the D&D universe, whether it's Forgotten Realms or kind of the generic D&D Mysteria or Eberron or my homebrew campaign. This idea that when you acquire wealth, portable in coins, but wealth is also tied up in those 15 barrels of whiskey, aged whiskey over in the corner. Maybe it's 30 gold pieces a barrel. That's going to be significant wealth for the dungeon. How the heck do you get it out of there as a player? All of a sudden, it's like the wizard in the party is like, memorize floating disk like crazy and transport this stuff out. Or I literally had a party, they got some coin resources and they invested in like a massive horse and cart type system, literally to haul out everything. You might have other more fantastic displays of wealth like paintings or carpets. I mean, certain parties will roll up everything they can and take everything out and mass sell it. You might also have, depending on the dungeon and the encounters where you're facing, 1,000 gold pieces, that's a pretty large stash of coins, not only in keeping track of it, but it's very vulnerable, or if you need to escape with it. So you might see a more limited amount of gold, but the rest of the dungeon wealth or the encounter wealth is tied up in gemstones or jewelry. This idea of being portable and small. So while I focus on gold, I always make sure to throw in the ecosystem this understanding of there are other forms of wealth in the D&D universe, and preserving that wealth, preserving that capital, that's worked in. That's baked into the dungeon, the encounter, the castle, whatever it's going to be. And I really kind of set that in place, and I step back and I leave it to the players. Some parties are just what they can immediately grab. Other players are like, okay, check everything. And like, we just defeated those lizard men. 5 of them are wearing rusted chain shirts. Okay, have the rogue crunch the numbers, hit the appraise skill, DC check. Okay, look, we can get 8 gold pieces for each of those. So we're taking those. The swords are pretty beat up. We can get a gold each. Okay, we're taking those. Like literally everything is accounted for. And sometimes as a party, you got to raise some cash, and you have to do that to facilitate that and to build that in. So as a player, what do you prefer? What has been your experience in gold / silver / copper / wealth? And as a DM, as a dungeon master, what do you tend to focus on and explore from that perspective?